We can.
Good. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us virtually. It's looking like we're up to 140 and we keep hearing that little bing, which means more people are joining. I could be forgiven for being quite nervous, because you'll have to forgive me. I'm not a teacher and I'm not trained as a teacher in the educational establishment. So you'll all be looking at my lesson plan and as to how I do in my delivery. But you'll all be really pleased to know that a senior police officer is not going to be whittering on for too long at you. We are very excited about PolEd in West Yorkshire. It's been in the making for 18 months, and very much thanks to the team for the identification as well as the registration of the kite mark of police education. And that's again come from consultation with teachers to link into a theme that children and young people can identify with. But we're very excited about it because we believe it's the first comprehensive program in the country, and we believe that it's just at its beginnings of an innovation and a change across West Yorkshire. But more importantly, we're very excited about it because we're going to tangibly, practically do things to help children and young people, do things to help protect them in the online environment, do things to protect them in the physical environment, do things to protect them together jointly across all agencies, to be enter into society as young people and to be safer in that society. So I think much of the benefits, if we achieve what we all want to achieve, will be generational going ahead, and will beyond the life cycle of many of us involved now. But I suppose it was always a view that we talk a lot about education, prevention, detection, but also early intervention and working with young people. And we all have great ideas as to what people and young people should be told about, but we don't provide a vehicle. So quite simply, we've taken the leap of faith that West Yorkshire Police will provide a holistic programme, a free programme, free to all in West Yorkshire to use it, written, devised, designed by teachers in lesson plans that are consistent and coherent with the national curriculum and with Ofsted and with all the safeguarding requirements that go around them, that goes through a 6 to 16 programme, latterly 16 plus you'll hear about an SEN, covering a whole broad range of subjects that you'll hear about, that children will then develop their knowledge and trust and confidence in society through their own teachers, not through police officers or police staff coming into schools, but through their own teachers and through the PSHE area of the curriculum that then gives hopefully some benefit to schools that we're filling up and allowing you in a professional manner to deliver them. What I also believe, and then I'll leave you to the team in a minute, is that this is just the beginning, because I think there's a whole host of things that are beyond our reach and our knowledge space, where around safeguarding, safety, social services, education, which we can use this vehicle for to help improve the lives of children and young people. And my commendations and thanks go to you all for showing interest at this stage. And I suspect you're all progressive educationists, progressive schools, good performing schools. And there'll be some who aren't able to join us tonight. But as it goes forward, maybe the people who are not showing the interest in the early stages are the one we really need to get to as well. So there you go. For a change, it's free. For a change, it's professional. And the desire and passion to support young people and children throughout their life cycle of education is shared with you. We'll, of course, still be coming into schools and still be doing other things, but we're genuinely trying to help and trying to provide a product that is useful and helpful to schools and to the educational environment. Okay, is there anything I've missed from the team that you wanted me to cover? Lovely. We're back to you, and I'll do my debrief of my lesson plan later.
Thank you. So, what is PolEd? PolEd is an educational resource which has been written by a small team of teachers within West Yorkshire Police for delivery by teachers in schools. And it's our hope for this resource that it's used by every single school in West Yorkshire in order to keep every child in West Yorkshire safe. Now, in order for this to happen, we need to make it relevant for schools. We want it to be useful and time-saving for teachers and engaging for the children. And with this in mind, PolEd is an all-through programme covering years 1 to 13, and it links in directly with the PSHE Association objectives. It's focused on safeguarding children through educating them about the law. I often say that if children don't know what the law is, how can we expect them to stay within it? And it's about recognising risky behaviours and developing resilience around those. There are a number of PSHE related schemes available to schools, but what makes PolEd different is that it's entirely free. We don't want the information in PolEd to be available only to those children who attend schools who choose to buy into it. We want every single child to have access, because the knowledge that PolEd imparts is so very important. I'd just like to illustrate that with a true story that happened to me a little while ago. I went into a pizza shop and there were a couple of men in there just waiting. And while I was waiting for my pizza, a couple of teenage girls came in to buy chips. And one of the men said, "I'll buy them chips for you." And I immediately saw red flags and a possible grooming situation about to take place. I didn't know the girls, I didn't know the men, and the girls certainly didn't know the men. And I wondered what I could do in that situation in order to safeguard the children. But I needn't have worried, because one of the girls turned round and said, "Nah, you're all right, thanks. We'll buy our own chips. We know what you're on with." And they bought their own chips and they left without any further problem and without any safeguarding issues. And I felt very relieved about that. I imagine that the school that those girls attended had delivered some sort of input around child criminal exploitation and grooming, and they understood the situation that could possibly have happened to them there, and they were able to keep themselves safe because they've got knowledge around that. But I couldn't help worrying about the next group of girls that might go in. The men were still there when I left the shop, and I wondered if they would have the same knowledge in order to keep themselves safe. And in essence, that's what PolEd sets out to do. It sets out to make sure that every single child has that knowledge in order to keep themselves safe. So why PolEd? Well, PolEd promotes partnership working between police and schools. In a survey commissioned by Hampshire Police a little while ago, children were asked what they thought of the police. And while over half of them had very positive opinions and saw the police as a service that would protect them, a large proportion had very negative views, using words like corrupt, racist, and untrustworthy to describe the police. If children see us in this way, we can't possibly work with them in order to keep them safe. And this is why PolEd starts with Year 1 children, in order to build trust and build positive relationships with the police. We don't have the capacity to go into every school and deliver PolEd to every single child. And that's why PolEd has been created for teachers to deliver in schools. Teachers also have specialist teaching knowledge and education in order to deliver the lessons professionally. And teachers also know their particular classes and the maturity of their class, the individual characteristics of their children in order to deliver those lessons for their particular children. Every single school has a PCSO or a Safer Schools officer linked to them. If you don't know who yours is, just email the PolEd mailbox, which will be displayed at the end of this presentation, and I'll let you know who your PCSO is. And we encourage you to link in with your PCSO while you're delivering the PolEd lessons. So it's not for the PCSOs to deliver, but we encourage you to link in with them in order to break down any negative misconceptions that children may have around the police. So PolEd is built on a foundation of policing knowledge about the specific risks and vulnerabilities that affect our young children. It covers themes such as how children are coerced into inappropriate behaviours and promotes development of skills to resist or avoid those risky situations, just like the scenario I've just described to you. It promotes values of good citizenship and encourages children to identify and become positive role models. One of the lessons for the Year 3 children talks about antisocial behaviour in the community, and it talks about one particular little girl, a 7-year-old girl, who noticed an issue of litter in her street and her local community, and she went out every night and started litter picking, and she became a bit of a local celebrity because people started recognising the good work she was doing. And if she can become a good role model at age 7, so can other children. And PolEd promotes those kind of positive role models throughout the different lessons. It also promotes safeguarding and details where children can find support, and it promotes positive relationships and supportive friendships. So children don't just see themselves on their own, they're part of a wider group of either peers, classmates, or a whole school. We know that children that get involved in risky behaviours, difficult situations, soon become disengaged with their education. They may start missing school and their attendance may go down, and as a result, their educational outcomes get reduced. On the flip side of that, children who have the information and the knowledge about keeping themselves safe and avoiding risky situations remain engaged in their learning. They're receptive learners. They go to school without the worries that being involved in a risky behaviour might induce. Their attendance remains good, and as a natural outcome of that, their educational achievement is better. So PolEd has over 160 lessons which have been created and covers 4 different curriculums. A lot of time and effort have been put into creating these by subject specialists within each area. So I'm from a primary teaching background, so a lot of the work that I did towards PolEd was on the primary curriculum. We have a secondary curriculum for PolEd, one for post-16 and one for SEN, and each of these individual curriculums have been created by specialists within those particular areas. So teachers from a secondary, post-16 or SEN background who have that understanding in order to create those particular lessons. So I mentioned that the PolEd lessons link in with the PSHE Association objectives. Within primary specifically, we cover all of the objectives within core theme 2 and core theme 3, so relationships and living in the wider world. We cover just over 50% of core theme 1. There are specific objectives around health, such as dental health or body parts, things that are specific to health that we haven't covered because there are other resources that target those particular objectives more effectively than we could as a police force. So I'll just go through some of the long-term plans with you now. They all follow a similar format that's been designed for ease of use for teachers. Each of the year group lessons are colour-coded so that you can see a particular colour of lessons, a scheme of work for year one are all linked to green, just to make it easy to identify where your particular year group fits in. So there are 34 lessons within the primary education plan. You'll see that from year one, we just start off with one lesson a term. These build up as the children get older to 2 or 3 lessons in year 4 and year 5. And in year 6, term 3, we have 5 lessons for the transition year between primary and secondary school. So where children are perhaps becoming a little bit more independent when they go to school, perhaps for the first time in secondary school, and they're perhaps more vulnerable to new risks and new experiences. There are quite a few lessons there relating to that developing independence and new risks that they might be vulnerable to. The additional lessons may or may not be appropriate for your particular school, your particular children. So they're provided if you wish to use them. It may be that you don't want to go into as much detail as a full lesson around those particular topics, but they're there if you feel that those particular subject issues are specific to your particular group of children. The secondary long-term plan follows similar format in that the lessons are colour-coded for the year groups, but you'll see that each of the terms now contain 6 lessons. So they go into each of the subject areas in a little more detail and provide a bit more information around the particular subject area and around the law and the issues relating to those subjects in more detail. Again, there are additional lessons if you wish to use those and if you feel they're appropriate to your particular children. The post-16 lessons cover years 12 and 13 and are interchangeable between the year groups there. We've set them out in a scheme of work which you can follow if you wish. However, if you want to use any of the particular lessons in response to an incident or something that's taken place, or if you want to fit them into the topic work that you're doing within your school or a drop-down day, you can adjust them and adapt them and use them as you feel appropriate to your particular school and your school curriculum. And the scheme of work that we've demonstrated here is just an example of how you could use it. The SEN long-term plan covers particular vulnerabilities that our special educational needs children may encounter. So we know from speaking with colleagues in special needs schools and from calls to service that special needs children have particular vulnerabilities, perhaps around exploitation, hate crime, and issues of that particular nature. And the lessons that have been designed for the SEN children target those particular topics. They've been written by a colleague who has experience of working in a special needs school and are adapted with Makaton and other elements that make them accessible for the special needs children. Equally, the lessons could be adapted for primary school children or younger children if there are particular topics there that you want to dip into. So just because you're not a SEN establishment doesn't mean to say that you can't look at these lessons and use them for your children if you would like to. We're working with Sheffield Hallam University to do academic research of PolEd for a long-term study of how the programme is going to work. So they've already been involved with us in studying the pilot for the past year. So the university are going to look at attitudinal change in children, not just in relation to the topic areas that are covered in the lesson plans, but also attitude changes around police and policing generally. So we get an overview of how the lessons are influencing the attitudes of the children. This is the first piece of academic research of this kind that has been done before over a long-term period of time. So it's going to follow children from year 1 to year 13 as they progress through the lessons and through doing PolEd for a continual period of time. And as such, it may become a published piece of research. We're looking to involve more schools in the academic research. So if you think that this is something that your school would like to be involved in, please let me know through the PolEd mailbox, and I'll explain to you a little bit more about that and how you can become involved in the study. It would be a great opportunity to highlight your school and shine a light on your particular school working with the university in this piece of innovative research, and to show your partnership working again with the university. And every school that takes part in this research will be named on the published piece of research when it's finalised. All of the PolEd lessons from primary through to secondary, post-16 and SEN follow exactly the same format. So there's consistency throughout the whole scheme. All of the lessons start with an engage activity that gets children thinking about the particular topic of the lesson. Then is followed by the learning objective, where it's stated what we want the children to achieve within the lesson. It's then followed by the main bulk of the lesson, the knowledge base, which is age appropriate. It may be a video, it may be some text, but some information around the learning objective. The children then get an opportunity to apply this knowledge. So this may be through a written piece of work, creating a poster or a piece of artwork. For the younger children, it may be a role play activity, but an opportunity for them to apply the knowledge that they've learned. This is then followed by a think activity, or the plenary, where children can reflect on the learning objective and have that been achieved. It's an opportunity for the teacher to assess whether the learning objective has been achieved by the majority of the class. It also enables children to ask questions if there's been anything that's concerned them within the lesson, and to reflect on the learning. The final slide details any resources for the teacher, so there may be handouts or worksheets or posters or video links that are needed for the particular lesson, and all of those resources are provided so the teachers don't have to do any work in delivering the PolEd lessons. All the resources are there provided and just need printing off. We've produced a guidance document to support the PolEd lessons, and this is available alongside the resources, and it just covers the main themes that we cover throughout the PolEd curriculum of lessons. Covers things like a blue safety dot, which we use throughout all the lessons, just to remind the children to consider their own personal safety at all times. We use the blue dot, blue to link in with the policing colour, and dot just because it's a really simple shape for the very youngest of our children to remember. And within each lesson, that blue dot reminds children at any particular risky time, or when they're considering a safety element, always to think and put their own personal safety first. The guidance covers ground rules, toolkits that we've designed for delivery of the lessons, and the support services and signposting that we recommend. You'll see at the bottom right hand side of your slide there that every single PolEd lesson ends with the same end slide, encouraging children and reminding them to speak to an adult if there's been anything in the lesson that's concerned them or worried them. So whoever their trusted adult is, they're reminded that if anything's concerned them, that they need to talk to somebody about that. And that's there at the end of every single lesson. There are various infographics and pieces of design work that we use throughout PolEd as well. Ones that are particular to the primary curriculum are the meerkats that you see there, which are used for the Key Stage 1 children. So we encourage them to see themselves a bit like a meerkat. They're not in this on their own. They're a part of a team, and they're on the lookout for the safety of each other. They're concerned about the rest of the group, the rest of their class and their peer group, and they're concerned about the safety of the group, just like a meerkat would be. We use the agree, disagree and not sure labels to encourage children to think about how they feel about some scenarios that we might suggest to them. And we use the toolkit, which you can see there on the right of your screen, to encourage children to build a physical toolkit around different skills and techniques that they might develop in order to respond to different situations. You can see the card above the toolkit where it says tell a teacher. We provide some blank ones of those so children can write their own ideas on them, and you may want to print off some of the toolkit images and stick them on the front of an A4 wallet so children can put their cards into a physical wallet to actually start building a toolkit of resources to help them in difficult situations. And finally, all of the PolEd lessons have a reminder on them just that these resources have been created for you to share within your educational establishment only. They're not to be shared outside of the school, and we ask that you don't alter or edit them. We want all of the lessons and all of the children in West Yorkshire to have a consistent message and the same message, and for that reason we ask that you don't edit them. If you've got any feedback though or suggestions about the lessons, please contact us through the PolEd mailbox, and we'd be keen to hear what you think about them. With that, I would like to now pass on to Sophie Hayes of St Paulinus School, who've been involved in the pilot of the PolEd programme. Sophie.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you all. My name's Sophie Hayes. I'm a head teacher at St Paulinus Catholic Primary School. We're in Dewsbury near the town centre, so quite in quite an urban setting. I'll just give you a little bit of information about us so you know our background. We have over 400 pupils in the school, 85% of which are from very deprived areas. We have 27% pupil premium, but we suspect it probably is more, although I'm sure you're all the same. We have a fairly high SEND, fairly high EAL, and we have a whole nurture team that supports us with safeguarding. But St Paulinus is blessed with very well behaved, very lovely children, as you can see on the screen there, all proudly holding up their certificates. So when we were approached to lead PolEd, we jumped at the chance, if I'm honest with you. We use PolEd as part of our PSHE programme, and we've just had an absolutely fantastic response from the children, from the staff. The children are really enjoying the lessons. They really like the true or false questions, or the okay and not okay questions. They like the different types of work that they do, so they've enjoyed doing the drama, the art artwork, and they're really enjoying the way it's presented. It's quite engaging. So for instance, one of the staff were telling me yesterday that they were doing the work on bullying in year 2, and it started talking about the differences between animals for zebras and lions, and then it went on to the differences for us, and so it was something that was really really keyed the children in. Staff have said that it's really good information. So for instance, in year 4, they've been doing about bizarre laws when they've been doing that topic, and the children have really enjoyed learning about strange things as well as things that they need to know for this programme. Excuse me. So in year 5, they've been doing cyberbullying. And the children are really hooked onto some of the slogans. So you'll find in some of the slides that there are slogans that are used. So for instance, for the cybercrime, cyberbullying, one of the slogans is the zip it, block it, flag it slogan, and that's really seems to have hit home. And I'm sure that I am not alone in saying that quite a few of us as schools may be finding that we are struggling with online bullying and online instances younger and younger now, and we have found that the lessons that we've been doing through PolEd have really helped us with that and move the children forward, and all the children talk about how they keep themselves safe online now, which has been really helpful. I would say that from the programme, it's been brilliant. I would say that staff always need to review it before they teach it, because just in case you've got a child that's been through that scenario themselves, so that you can preempt or change, well not change, but just make sure that child is looked after in your classroom. But the discussions that we've had have been absolutely fantastic. We've actually had a number of safeguarding things that have come through the discussions. We've found out things about the children that we actually didn't know beforehand. And the amount of stuff that children are exposed to, that really, because we are blessed with such wonderful children, that we didn't think they were experiencing this, but they are. They're experiencing phishing and all these different things there. So it's been quite an interesting experience for us, and we've learned a lot. I highly recommend it, especially considering it's free, which is excellent, and it's a really good quality piece. And I thought, just to finish, I'd just read you a couple of quotes I've got from the teacher and some of the children about what they found about PolEd. So, Year 6 teacher: an engaging and informative programme that links well with our PSHE curriculum objectives. The lesson slides and resources are accurately aimed at our Year 6 pupils and tackle topical issues such as human rights, stress management and growing up and grooming, providing them with the knowledge needed to make well-informed decisions in the future. And then two of our pupils said, I enjoyed the PolEd lessons because they helped me understand and make the right decisions, such as understanding my human rights and managing my stress during lockdown. It also gives me all the tools and information I need for the future. And that's from children. You can't ask for more than that, can you, when you're going into a programme? So overall, I'd highly recommend it. And if anybody would like to ask any questions or want any more information, please do feel free to email me or contact the school. I'm happy to answer anything and share anything that we found with you. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant, Sophie. Thank you for that. So I would now like to hand over to Sarah Mumtaz from Leeds City Council. We've been working in partnership with Leeds Council around hosting the PolEd resources, and Sarah's just going to talk through how you can access those resources through their school wellbeing site. Sarah.
Thank you so much.
That's fine. So thank you. I'm not on screen. My camera's not on. They don't need to see this.
Tom, am I
okay? Am I okay to start?
Yes, you are.
Sorry, Sarah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
Like
I thought it was me then. I thought, gosh, I sound a bit different. So no, thank you so much for inviting us along this afternoon. We really appreciate the chance to sort of come along and say good afternoon to everybody. Are we going to do a bit of a Chris Whitty thing? Oh, brilliant. I was going to say next slide. Yeah, no, that's fine. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarah Mumtaz Jones. I have the pleasure of leading the Health and Wellbeing Service within Leeds City Council, Children and Families. And our main hub, our school wellbeing website, it was just kind of fortuitous that actually as we were approached about hosting the PolEd scheme, we were undergoing a bit of a refresh of our site anyway. So it just meant that it was so well timed that we could agree to sort of host it on our platform for the whole of West Yorkshire. So all schools and settings across West Yorkshire will be able to access the whole of the scheme that you've been hearing about via the schoolwellbeing.co.uk website. So we are a team of about 22 that work across sort of healthy schools, PSHE, social, emotional, mental health, physical activity, healthy eating, and do provide kind of one-to-one mentoring support as well for vulnerable young people. So there's a whole wealth of stuff that we offer as a service. And those of you who are joining us this afternoon from Leeds, I hope you were familiar with the work that we do and the support that we offer. So what you will find, can we just move on to the next slide? Thank you. So what you'll find once our website's been refreshed and we're in the process of just finalising that, we'll go into a bit of a beta stage where we'll try and break the new site. And then it will be launched. We're hoping the back end of summer term 2. And if failing that, we will definitely be ready for September. But what you'll find when you go onto the homepage is there'll be a little tile, a bit like what you can see now, that will have really clearly the PolEd logo. And every school will need to register onto the site and tick on the registration form the PolEd scheme that they'll be looking to access. And then that registration will go through an approval process, and then you'll be setting up a username and password to access it. This is so that I guess between ourselves and West Yorkshire Police, we can be sure that it remains within the boundaries of West Yorkshire. I know at some point there may be conversations of extending that and allowing external schools and local authorities to access it, but we just need to, for now, keep it within the boundaries of West Yorkshire. So we will be working before that September launch, working with local authority leads within the other West Yorkshire area. So I know some of you are here this afternoon as well. So we will meet with all of you prior, because what we'd like to do is allow your local authority advisors to be able to have access to all the resource and the background of the website as well, so you can track which schools have registered and which are accessing. And we'll also be able to track and monitor which are the most popular lessons that are being accessed and downloaded, just so that actually all of that information, along with the research that's being done, which sounds brilliant, we can see actually what's happening across the region, which I think will be invaluable information for us all that have been involved in developing this fantastic resource. Just the next slide. Thank you. So yeah, so once you've registered and you've got your username and your password, then it'll take you straight into the scheme that you've got the registration for, and a bit like the screen is indicating, you'll be able to sort of click onto the year group, click onto the lesson, and be able to download straight from the site. And like I said, it's the registration is key when you go to it. Please do, for example, if you're secondary or primary, don't forget the SEN versions as well, and to be able to click access to those. So don't forget, you might need to kind of click access to both of those sets of resources. Is there another slide for me? I think that might be. Yeah, so I'm just mindful of time and I can see all the questions pinging through. If you've got any questions about access, or if you've got any questions about the school wellbeing site and anything about the kind of the availability, do pop your questions in, because like I said, we're working really closely with the PolEd team to try and bring access to this resource as quickly as possible. But yeah, we do want to work with the West Yorkshire local authority leads with that. So like I said, we'll sort of get in touch and arrange a meeting. But thank you again for letting us join you this afternoon and just hear about this great. I've been part of the journey really with Azar from about 2 years ago, so it's just brilliant to see it reach this stage. It's really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's really helpful, and we appreciate our partnership working with Leeds in order to host the resources with yourselves as well. So thank you. So I'd like to open this up now for any questions. I think my colleague Tom Regan is going to assist in and facilitate in putting some questions forward, and we've got all of the PolEd team here to answer any particular questions that may come through.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I've just got a couple of questions through already, but if anybody else has got any more, please add them to the chat and we'll try and get through as many as possible. Failing that this evening, we'll email out to respond to your questions. So Claire has asked, will we be able to have copies of the slides that are currently being presented this evening? Claire, just to answer that question, obviously the presentation has been recorded and that will be shared on our YouTube channel, and we'll send a link out to that. But along with that, we'll also send a version of this PowerPoint across as well to all schools that are in tonight's meeting, launch event, and other schools that are in the West Yorkshire area.
Fab, thank you.
Okay, and then Annie has asked, is the Year 8 plan for antisocial behaviour appropriate for use with the Year 6? Az, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So in regards to all of the lessons you'll find across PolEd, they're interwoven and they're interchangeable. So if you feel, having looked at, for example, the Year 8 plan for antisocial behaviour, that your students in Year 6 have the ability, of course, to follow the lesson structure, feel free to use it. You can use it as you wish, which is great with PolEd because of the flexibility of it.
Thank you very much, because we're in BD4 and we're having a lot of antisocial behaviour problems at the moment.
No problem at all.
That's great, thanks, Annie. Catherine, we answered your question earlier regarding the PowerPoints. Thank you for your feedback, Mr. Padwell. Why have early years been left out of the programme? Sarah, would you be able to take that one?
That's a really good question. They haven't been left out. I think we had a limited amount of time and a limited amount of resources in order to create PolEd, in order for getting it ready for delivery for September, and we've done the bulk of what we've been able to do for now. We see PolEd as an evolving resource that's going to build on what we've got as this sort of foundation for starting it, and we see new lessons, new resources and new curriculums coming into it over the coming years. So foundation stage lessons are something that I see as being able to develop in the future, certainly something that I would be excited to work on, and I think that's an excellent idea for us to develop going forward, looking at really simple and basic ideas for the very youngest children to take part in. One of the Year 1 lessons, or some of the Year 1 lessons, could also be adapted in the interim for the younger children in reception. We've got some resources around getting to know your PCSO, where children can cut out some epaulets and safety pin them onto the shoulders, which would be ideal for reception age children to have a little go in the role play area at doing some of those lessons. So in the interim time, until we've got a early years curriculum sorted, I encourage you to have a look at the Year 1 lessons, which I think you would be able to adapt.
That's great, thanks, Sarah. And as Sarah said there, the PolEd programme is evolving, so we do want your feedback so we can see how we can develop it, what lessons you as a school might want, so we can develop it further. Okay, thank you. Helena has asked, is the SEN scheme of work supported by the mainstream PSHE framework or the SEND PSHE framework? As
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for your question, Helena. It is going to be following the SEND PSHE framework, as similar to, as you can imagine, the mainstream versions via the PSHE Association. So we'll be using that to cross-reference all the lessons, and actually you'll find with our lessons we cross-reference all of the actual key areas within our lesson plan, so you know exactly what points you're meeting, again, not just in SEND but in the mainstream lessons as well. Thank you, Az.
Rebecca's asked, are all lessons to be delivered, or can schools choose relevant lessons for support their topics? It's on that one, it's completely up to the school really. We've provided a wide bank of resources that match the PSHE framework, but you as a school can decide which topics you deliver, or which lessons within those topics to deliver. And that is, as Sophie mentioned, one of the positives from our programme is that the teacher knows that class and knows their children better than anybody else. So you can decide how far into that topic you go, just to make sure that there's no children feeling awkward or anything come to light that the school didn't know already. So you can decide as the facilitator how far into that project you go.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering that question.
No worries. If Annie's asked that stated that her school's available to take part in the research project. If you would like to take part in the research project, just email the PolEd box and mailbox, and we will look at who can, how many Sheffield Hallam want to work with. But we are very excited to see the long-term impact of PolEd on our young people and our community as a wider source. Donna, as I've mentioned, the link to the video will be sent out to all our schools today and schools in the wider area for them to see this input. 1 second. Can North Yorkshire schools access the resources? Currently, PolEd is restricted as a free resource to those schools within the West Yorkshire area. Further down the line, we may be looking to work with other forces around PolEd, but they may have to purchase it from West Yorkshire Police, as it is our programme. Okay. Tina's asked, and do we need a link to the Leeds Wellbeing site? Sarah, are you still online?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So yes, I've popped into the sort of chat further down. Yes, you will be sent that. So we are aiming to have the site ready for July. I guess September is just as a kind of precautionary, really, if we don't manage to hit the July deadline before schools finish for the summer holiday. Yes, you'll be sent a link to register, and then as soon as you register, you'll be able to access the resource that will already have been uploaded and ready for you to download and use.
That's great, thank you, Sarah. And can we access more than one area? We would want the primary and the SEN to cover all our children. That's a question from Lisa.
Yes, as I said earlier, you just when you go to the registration form, just make sure you click all the sections that you need access to, and we'll make sure that they'll be sort of available. So yes, definitely click the primary and the SEN for the phase. Yeah. That's
great, thank you, Sarah. And then Val from Kirklees has asked, is registration to the wellbeing site free to all schools outside of Leeds?
Yes, yeah, there'll be no charge for registering to the site. So yeah, so no cost to register and no cost to access PolEd. That's
great, thank you, Sarah. And then, do the schools on the pilot need to register, or will this be already done? So, Alison, regarding that, because PolEd is moving away from Teams and moving onto the Leeds Wellbeing website, you will have to register on that website to access the resources. Okay, and then Glenn, what is the annual subscription link?
Is that for the school wellbeing? There won't be any annual subscription for schools accessing the PolEd resource.
Okay.
If you're looking to, we do have one generally for others, but if schools are interested in that, they can click those and then we can link you into that subscription. But for accessing the PolEd, there won't be any annual subscription.
That's great, thank you. And Sarah, I think you've covered this. The aim is to get it ready for July, isn't it, on the wellbeing website?
Yes, absolutely. That's our aim. I mean, we did talk about this earlier with the PolEd team, and we did say that actually we need to make sure that the long-term plans are shared so that as our teaching colleagues start to plan for September, they can see that from the long-term plan what to build into their medium term plans and going into their short-term plans. But yes, we are aiming to do it for July. It's just hard to say when it's in the hands of our web provider and web designers. It just feels slightly out of our control in that sense. So we're just kind of erring on the side of caution when we say September.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. As I've mentioned, we will respond to all questions that have been left in the chat, but just one that's just appeared to me. Could parent workshops classes be designed in the future as the programme evolves and grows? That is something that we could definitely, as a team, consider, because obviously it's to do with keeping our children safe, and parents are a massive part of that. So that's an area that we could look to develop in the future, possibly. Right, I'll hand back to the team back upstairs. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Tom. I'll just get the presentation back up. Bear with us. So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you found that useful and that most of the questions were answered. Please contact us on the PolEd mailbox if you still have anything that you'd like to ask, and someone will get back to you on that. And I would now like to hand over to our Assistant Chief Constable, Catherine Hankinson, who is going to close the session for us.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, like the Chief, I will only keep this really brief because I know everybody's got homes and lives to go to, but many of you will no doubt be parents as well as teachers. I'm a parent of 2 children at different schools in Calderdale, and I'm always really impressed and quite surprised actually by some of the topics and themes that you discuss at school now with kids around safeguarding and the wider world. I think it's amazing some of the things that are discussed at school, and that's a brilliant place for it to be discussed because, as we all know, kids spend an awful lot of time at school, and some of their most trusted relationships are in that environment. So it's brilliant that those kind of conversations are taking place, and I think PolEd really builds on that. The people that that know the young people really well, they can raise issues that they're worried about, not just there and then, which quite often is the case if police officers come in to deliver these things, but also at any time in the future with those people that they really trust and have a relationship with. A really important point, I think Sarah's just touched on it, but just for everybody's kind of reassurance really, is this is the beginning of PolEd. We can change and develop it as we go with feedback from you as professionals and obviously from the children, because that's really important in how it lands as well. So Sarah's given us a really good overview there of PolEd and what it's all about and the access to the resources that will be available. Big thanks to Sophie for spending the time to give us the perspective from the primary school that has been trialling this, and really nice to hear some of those things from the kids about how they've been received and how much they've enjoyed them. Sarah again from Leeds Local Authority for agreeing to host and for presenting your part. And it's really important for me to say a really big thanks to, as for a start, this is very much your baby, I know that, and it's something you feel really passionately about, and why wouldn't you? But also to the wider team who are here with us and have been supporting along the way. I think you'll agree that it's been built into a really helpful and useful resource, and I think some of the questions that we've clarified along the way just show that there are some really good ideas already coming out around early years, around how we can link it in with parents as partners in all this as well. So I think that's just been brilliant just in the last hour. So I think, I know as ACC Local Policing and Safeguarding Lead for West Yorkshire just how critical a partner education is in terms of keeping children safe, because they, that relationship that they build with teachers and pastoral caring staff is obviously one of the strongest and most trusted that our children have. So in terms of what next and what you can do, I'd ask you to think and chat to your colleagues and your relevant SLTs about taking part in that research study as we've talked about before. Talk to your colleagues across other schools in West Yorkshire about PolEd, and hopefully we'll get you signed up and using it in either late July or September. There are no catches, it's free. It's for that collective aim of keeping children safe. So I hope that you'll all grasp it with both hands and kind of take part in the journey with us. in terms of PolEd and what it can deliver for children across West Yorkshire. So thank you very much for everybody's attendance today. I usually say at this point, safe journey home. You might already be at home, some of you, I don't know, but stay safe if you are already at home, and if not, then safe journeys. So thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining us, and we look forward to working with you in the near future. Goodbye for now.